So as a lot of you guys have already seen, we had the mayoral election here, and we got a runoff between Brandon Johnson and Paul Vallas. Man, I just want to get you guys thoughts and feedback on what happened, because this was very interesting, man. It took me by surprise, I have to say, because not only because of who won, but from where the votes were coming from. So Brandon Johnson actually got the majority of his votes from white liberals on the north side, and Paul Vallas got the majority of his votes from, I don't know if I could call them conservatives, but I would say more conservative whites on the northwest side. So like the northeastern side of the city over by, like, Wicker Park, Bucktown, Rogers Park, Wrigleyville. Brandon Johnson did stronger over there. And those are more like young, urban professionals, a lot of hipsters, gay people. They live in that area. And then on the northwest side, you got a lot more blue collar type working class whites over there, and you also have like a lot of police and firemen that live in that area. Paul Vallas got the majority of his votes over there. So Mayor Lightfoot had gotten the majority of her votes from those white liberals that Brandon Johnson got this time. She'd gotten those last time, and they didn't go with her this time. And interestingly, her percentage of the vote, which she only got 17% of the vote, that came from the south and west side, from the black neighborhoods this time. Whereas last time, black folks didn't really support her. And it was true again this time. I mean, only 17%, it's not that much. Her prediction really came true. She was kind of going at the other black candidates in the race. And all the candidates in the race were black except for Vallas and Chuy Garcia. And she was going at them during the race because she was saying, that these other black candidates are splitting the black vote, which she needs to beat Vallas and Garcia. Well, that turned out to be true. I mean, the vote was split almost evenly. I mean, between a lot of the black candidates. Now, some of them only got like 5% of the vote, but Willie Wilson did pretty strongly again. Not strong enough, though. And then, obviously Brandon Johnson, he was able to edge her out, not with black votes, though, but with the white votes that she had gotten last time. So how it's going to go in the runoff is going to be interesting. Brandon Johnson got 20% and Paul Vallas got 34%. So it would appear that Vallas, he'd be the favorite in the runoff, but that I don't think that's the case, because a lot of the votes that that the other candidates got could go to Johnson. Okay, so if all the black votes go to Johnson, and he gets some of the Latino votes too. He's already got the white votes, okay, and he's already got a good percentage of the white vote amongst the white liberals. He could beat Vallas. And the crime issue was one that really, it's something that the South and West Side have always faced, head on, as far as that being, one of the number one issues like facing their community. But the violence that only typically affected, those sides at epidemic proportions started to spill out and affect the entire city. And the other media outlets were saying this too. They were saying that, what you would typically only see on the South and West Side was starting to happen everywhere. And so a lot of the issues that, the North Side and the Northwest Side typically face were getting edged out by the crime issue. Okay, carjackings were going on everywhere, burglaries, rapes, robberies, even murders, were happening at rates that you don't typically see in those neighborhoods. Now, I kind of disagree with some of these media outlets that those neighborhoods don't see that at all, but it was made front and center a lot by the media, and the murder rate was really going through the roof, man, especially 2021. And so crime became the number one issue. Now, Vallas has already made a promise that he can't keep, which is that he's going to make Chicago the safest city in America. That would take, I mean, unless you have a way to get, 100,000 plus gang members to drop their flag overnight, that's a extreme long shot, because the city has the highest concentration of gang members, or the highest number, I think, of gang members, like for its population size, of any city in America. So that's a culture that's entrenched in the city's history. It goes back more than 100 years, and it's generational. It's literally taught and just passed down. The young kids coming up in the neighborhoods observing behaviors and then repeating what they see, and it just goes on and on. So unless he has a way to stop that, that's a promise that's going to be impossible to keep. And then Brandon Johnson, the crime issue was a thing that all the candidates had touched on, but his was a more, I would say, comprehensive platform. I don't think either of these guys can fix Chicago's problems. Honestly, I really don't. Although one thing I'll say is that when it comes to the police, with the George Floyd protests that happened, a couple of years ago, and with a lot of the issues that were getting pushed by the media as far as that, there was a lot of pushback against police. And this is an issue where, like I said before, you have to pick a side, because when you try to play both sides, neither side ends up liking you, and then you get with the police something that they refer to as the Ferguson effect, which is that they just stand down, and then crime, the streets can just turn up. That's a situation that's not sustainable, because then, the people that are being victimized in the streets, they point the finger at you when you're doing what they literally just told you to do, but you can't listen to them. Okay, you got to do what's good for them, not what they tell you they want. Okay, it's like dealing with a child a lot of ways. When it comes to dealing with like massive numbers of people in the population, man, that's just the way it is. So I don't think that all this is in their control, or hardly any of it. Going at them and making them feel disenfranchised and sending a negative vibe towards the police department, that's something that's going to boomerang and hit you right back. I mean, it's, as a leader of the city, like, you have to, whoever takes the mayor's seat this next term, even if they see the police do foul stuff, they have to control their emotions and realize that, even though the police are foul, if the streets turn up, the situation gets 1,000 times worse. Okay, it's not going to be perfect in Chicago. It's not. Like, there's no way to have a low murder rate, no police brutality whatsoever. It's just not. We're dealing with human beings. Human beings are foul and they do dirty stuff. Sometimes that's a tough decision to make when you've got the people, calling you names and pushing you in one particular direction. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section, man. Who you got, for the mayor's race as far as the runoff? I think Brandon Johnson. The issues that a lot of the candidates that got the other votes were pushing are more in line with his platform. Vallas ran on a platform almost exclusively of like anti-crime. So unless he can reach out, and expand his platform, I don't think that the percentages that happened in this election necessarily tell the tale of what's going to happen in the runoff. But that's just my thoughts. You guys let me know what you think, man. Like I said, man, the mayor's race, it's always very interesting here. It's always kind of like racially charged, but taking it that route, as far as like talking about that in the campaign, it almost always backfires, I think, man. And she was doing that, and the other candidates were trying to like kind of squash that, like say, this is for the whole city, all the races in the city and stuff. And the vote didn't fall along racial lines this time necessarily, because like I said, those white liberals, man, they go for who falls in line with their ideology. And that's not, I would say it's not usually the white candidate. I mean, it's really not. So at least in Chicago, but Chicago is not a microcosm of the country. Chicago is a very liberal city. So even the quote unquote conservatives here are on the left of the political spectrum when you put them against a national standard. This is your boy When You Say Report. I'm out.